She sculpted her speeches the way a jeweler cuts a raw diamond pulled from the depths of the earth, word by word with surgical precision to remove every impurity, silence by silence to let the echo of the unsaid weigh heavier than the sentences themselves. She crossed the Libyan desert under a leaden sun that melts illusions and scorches skin to the bone, trudging over endless dunes where each step kicks up a cloud of ochre sand that clings to lips and stings the eyes, all to bring back 5 Bulgarian nurses and 1 Palestinian doctor sentenced to death by an unpredictable, capricious regime whose rulings swing like a pendulum between feigned mercy and absolute cruelty. Women worn down by years in damp Benghazi cells, their faces etched with fear and hope intertwined. Then, just 5 months after the most resounding electoral victory of the Fifth Republic, a night when crowds in ecstasy flooded the Place de la Concorde beneath a rain of blue-white-red confetti and chants of Nicolas. Nicolas, still ringing in collective memory, she closed the armored door of the Élysée with a sharp click that marked the end of an era, 3 soft Italian leather suitcases holding the essentials of her life sorted with almost ritual meticulousness, a plane ticket to New York tucked into a leather pouch engraved with her initials. 18 years of absolute silence followed, like a monastic vow she imposed on herself. Not a single interview granted, even to the most persistent journalists camped outside her New York building. Not one photo snatched by paparazzi despite their telephoto lenses trained on the windows of her Upper East Side apartment. Only rumors that died out like dying embers in Parisian salons with crystal chandeliers and Persian rugs, whispered between champagne glasses at society dinners where the lives of the powerful are dissected. At 67, she finally speaks, her voice calm and measured, cutting through the usual media clamor, not to avenge the past humiliations accumulated like invisible scars on her soul, but to exist as an autonomous subject who thinks and acts, no longer a decorative object or political accessory, so that her name is no longer a mere italicized footnote in the Sarkozy legend that dominates history textbooks and hagiographic biographies, so that history remembers she was not just the faithful, discreet shadow of an ambitious man climbing the steps of power with frenzied energy, but the vivid, indispensable light that carried him to the summit by illuminating his wildest ideas and softening his sharpest edges, before choosing her own path with a cold determination that defies convention and the accusing stares of French society. Neuilly, August 11, 1984. The town hall exhales the heady scent of fresh wax applied with care to the ancient parquet by municipal workers in gray smocks, and white lilies freshly cut in baccarat crystal vases placed symmetrically on polished mahogany tables that reflect the muted glow of chandeliers. Jacques Martin, in an impeccably pressed cream suit ironed by a devoted housekeeper, flashes the smile of a TV host honed by years of live broadcasts before millions who laugh at his light, family-friendly jokes, waiting for his fiancée on the stone steps carved with 19th-century precision. Cecilia steps out of the family Peugeot 504 with its leather seats worn from daily commutes, wearing a fluid ivory dress signed by a discreet couturier who stitched every seam in absolute secrecy to avoid leaks to the tabloids, her soft chignon held by an iridescent mother-of-pearl clip that catches the August sun like a living jewel, her gaze straight as a steel arrow already piercing the future with an almost prophetic intuition of the torments ahead. The mayor, Nicolas Sarkozy, barely 29, in a charcoal suit a bit too tight at the shoulders from his morning jogs in the Bois de Boulogne where he runs to burn off accumulated stress, his voice already sharp as a new razor slicing through hesitation and soothing speeches of political rivals, reads the articles of the Civil Code with theatrical assurance that silences the gathering of 30 hand-picked guests from Neuilly's elite and TV friends. When she utters the fateful yes, in a clear voice that echoes in the wood-paneled marriage hall, their eyes meet for half a second charged with static electricity containing the entire sequence of events like a film condensed into a fleeting instant, enough for history to tip irrevocably on an invisible axis, enough for destiny to set off on invisible rails forged in the secret workshops of chance and ambition. He calls the next day under the pretext of an urgent legal consultation, invented to mask his budding turmoil, then the day after for a quick coffee between friends, in an anonymous neighborhood bistro. She laughs at first politely, as one laughs at a slightly heavy, out-of-place joke at a formal dinner. Jacques Martin stops laughing altogether. His face closes like a theater curtain at the end of an act. He smells danger before even understanding what is truly happening in his wife's heart, now beating at an accelerated rhythm to a forbidden passion. The calls become daily at fixed hours, a secret ritual structuring Cecilia's days between TV rehearsals and errands for the children. Flowers arrive without a card in a cut crystal vase delivered by a discreet scooter courier who vanishes before questions can be asked. Velvety red roses filling the apartment with an intoxicating scent. Handwritten letters slipped under the door of the Haussmannian apartment on Boulevard Malherbe with its ceiling moldings and marble fireplaces, penned in nervous, hurried script. You are the only one who sees clearly into my wildest ideas, the ones even my closest aides dismiss with a shrug. Cecilia hesitates between the warm stability of Jacques with his set jokes that make French families laugh in front of the small screen and his star's unpredictable yet predictably chaotic schedule, and the devouring fire of Nicolas with his political conquest projects spread like an imperial map across the mayor's desk. She loves the soft glow of TV spotlights that flatter her husband's ego by placing him at the center of national attention, but she burns for the limitless ambition of the young mayor who already speaks of the Élysée as an obvious step in a fiery speech at a municipal council meeting. The political dinners multiply in discreet Hautes de Seine brasseries with checkered tablecloths and complicit waiters who look away. Glances linger beyond reason like threads stretched between magnetic poles. Hands brush under the starched white linen tablecloth with an intention that raises the room's temperature. Jacques Martin begins asking direct questions at family dinners around an oak table where the children eat in silence. Cecilia deflects with forced smiles masking an inner excitement she hadn't felt in years, feeling alive for the first time in ages as if an electric current coursed through her dormant body, feeling understood in her deepest aspirations beyond the role of model mother and TV star's wife. Feeling desired beyond that role with an intensity that makes her blush in the privacy of her bedroom. 1986. She slams the door of the marital apartment with a sharp sound echoing in the Haussmannian stairwell like thunder in a serene sky. Two Italian leather suitcases tanned by hand holding clothes folded with care and family photos slipped between sweaters. Her daughters asleep on the striped fabric back seat of the Renault 21, wrapped in blankets against the Parisian night chill. Jacques remains alone in front of a L'École de Fans rerun on national TV with its childish songs and forced laughter, tears in his eyes before children singing off-key with an innocence contrasting his adult pain. Newspapers scream in bold headlines, Neuilly mayor steals TV star's wife in a scandal worthy of 19th-century vaudeville revisited by modern tabloids. Sarkozy, still married to Marie-Dominique, raising their two boys in a Norman country house with green shutters and century-old apple trees, opens the door to the official apartment on Rue de la Pampa with a keyring trembling slightly in his sweaty hand from excitement and apprehension. The children shuttle between two homes like space shuttles in a complicated ballet orchestrated by lawyers and black-robed judges. Lawyers negotiate divorce terms in plush Montaigne Avenue offices with thick carpets and dusty legal code libraries. Love negotiates nothing. It settles noisily with passionate arguments and torrid reconciliations. It imposes itself with hurricane force, uprooting century-old trees without permission. It devours everything in its path like a forest fire, leaving smoking ashes. Cecilia discovers the life of a rising political woman with overflowing agendas and facade smiles. Meetings in overheated community halls with plastic chairs and cold coffee smells. Late-night meetings in anonymous hotel rooms with worn carpets and flickering neon. Secret meetings in tagged concrete underground parking lots. Passionate meetings leaving marks on rumpled sheets and bruises on skin like tangible memories of devouring passion. October 23, 1996, 6:30 p.m. sharp, Neuilly Town Hall with freshly painted off-white corridors and portraits of former mayors on the walls. No crowd pressed against the wrought iron gates guarding privacy like a medieval rampart. No official photographers allowed in the dark wood-paneled marriage hall with red velvet seats. Bernard Arnault and Martin Bouygues sign as witnesses on the leather-bound register with discreet gilding glinting under wall sconces. Cecilia in a fitted beige suit bought at Chanel on Rue Cambon with pearl buttons and a pencil skirt hugging her form elegantly. Sarkozy in a dark suit impeccably tailored to the millimeter. A quick kiss on the lips under the crackle of forbidden camera flashes like lightning in a stormy night. 6 months later, Louis is born in a private House de Seine clinic overlooking the calm Seine with slow-passing barges, in a pastel-walled room with beeping monitors. The couple is finally official after years of clandestinity, leaving indelible traces in their memories. Tabloids publish stolen photos from Bagatelle Park outings with shaded alleys and wrought iron benches. Rumors persist in upscale Parisian salons with silk sofas and tuxedoed waiters. They built their happiness on the still-smoking ruins of prior marriages. But they shrug it off royally in sync. They have their blended family with 5 children total squabbling noisily and joyfully around the dinner table like a tribe, their shared ambitions drawn like a treasure map with excess marking steps to supreme power, their love finally legitimate after years of clandestinity sharpening desire like a honed blade. 2002, Ministry of the Interior at Place Beauvau with Haussmannian facades and gilded gates guarded by uniformed police. Cecilia has no official photo badge opening automatic doors. She has an office at the corridor's end overlooking the irregular stone-paved inner courtyard planted with century-old plane trees. She reads speeches first at 6 a.m. when the building still sleeps and corridors smell of freshly ground coffee, correcting style errors with a red pen drawing clean lines on double-spaced printouts, softening overly sharp angles that might shock fickle public opinion. Too aggressive, Nicolas, on insecurity hitting suburbs and popular neighborhoods. Too long for 8 p.m. TV news needing short, punchy phrases. Speak to them like friends, not sworn enemies deserving the gallows. He always listens attentively sipping espresso in fine porcelain, rereads each version 3 times with blue marginal notes, accepts bold cuts lightening the text like a sculptor removing excess stone, keeps the phrases she chiseled like rare, precious jewels shining under spotlights. She chooses ties matching TV set dominant colors to avoid garish contrasts, impeccable white shirts ironed by a discreet laundress, pauses between sentences to let the audience breathe and build suspense. She receives prefects in his absence in the ministerial office with Louis XVI furniture and oriental rugs, negotiates with police unions when he's on provincial trips in wood-paneled prefectures. A collaborator confides in memoirs published a decade later with a hardcover and archive photos. Without her, he would have exploded in flight as early as 2005 during the suburban riots that set housing projects ablaze with burning cars and Molotov cocktails. 2007, Libya. Gaddafi with his wrinkled face and eccentric outfits holds 5 Bulgarian nurses and 1 Palestinian doctor accused of intentionally infecting children with HIV in a Benghazi hospital with peeling walls and outdated equipment. Freshly elected Sarkozy sends Cecilia alone to Tripoli with an unofficial mandate in a sealed envelope. 3 days in a palace monitored by Libyan secret services with armed guards at every door and hallway cameras. Mint tea served in intricately arabesqued silver glasses, tense negotiations in salons with thick gold-embroidered curtains muffling sounds and cries. She secures their release for promises of French investments in oil infrastructure with wells spewing fire day and night. She returns with the 5 exhausted but alive women, gaunt faces, haunted eyes, in a French state-chartered medical plane with onboard nurses and adapted stretchers. Sarkozy triumphs on national TV live from Villa Cablet tarmac under blinding lights and official applause. She stays in the Élysée salon's shadow with a simple satisfied smile lighting her tired face. No one thanks her publicly at the multi-mic press conference with flying questions. She smiles inwardly with mute pride, knowing what she accomplished at the cost of sleepless nights poring over confidential files and extreme tensions knotting her stomach like a vice. May 6, 2007, electoral victory. Place de la Concorde black with people, tricolor flags waving in the wind, chants rising into the Parisian night. He screams, "Thank you, France," under a rain of blue-white-red confetti sticking to clothes damp from a passing shower. She smiles in a fitted red Dior dress with matching pumps, but her eyes are empty as bottomless wells in the Libyan desert where she walked under a merciless sun. The following weeks are an endless protocol nightmare with glossy printed agendas, minute-by-minute schedules dictated by the protocol service with color codes for each official event and SMS reminders. Dinners with ambassadors she knows neither from Adam nor Eve in the Élysées crystal chandeliered festival hall with silver set tables. Official photos where she must look happy, while her mind wanders to Central Park's tree-lined paths and anonymous joggers. August 2007 visit to George W. Bush in Kennebunkport, Maine, with wooden villas and restless oceans. She skips it citing a diplomatic angina, invented by communications with a laconic release. Tabloids sneer in gossip columns with vicious cartoons depicting her as capricious. July 14th military parade on the Champs-Élysées with glistening cobblestones and rumbling tanks. She's absent from the presidential balcony beside her husband. She's spotted in Central Park with a cardboard Starbucks cup, dark sunglasses, and a baseball cap pulled low over her eyes to hide from curious passers-by. September, separate bedrooms in the Élysées West Wing with double-locked connecting doors on brass keys that creak slightly. Ushers whisper in mahogany-paneled corridors about nighttime arguments, filtering through thick walls with raised voices and slamming doors. 10-year-old Louis innocently asks, "Why does Daddy always yell at ministers in council meetings?" with childlike curiosity breaking hearts. Cecilia spends hours on the phone with her daughters left in the Paris family apartment with velvet curtains and framed photos. She feels imprisoned in a palace of mirrors reflecting an image she no longer recognizes with excessive gilding and Persian rugs. She suffocates under the weight of gilding and social obligations chaining like invisible links. She has no official office with stacked files, no active political role in power's backrooms, no voice in strategic decisions around mahogany tables. She is merely the woman smiling in protocol photos with foreign heads of state in impeccable suits and firm handshakes. October 2007. She packs secretly while Sarkozy is in Lisbon for a European summit in air-conditioned conference rooms. 3 soft leather bags with life's essentials sorted with cold efficiency, clothes precisely folded, jewelry in silk pouches. A note on the Carrara marble nightstand in firm handwriting. "I can no longer play this role that is not mine, that suffocates me like an overly tight corset." She takes a taxi to Roissy Charles de Gaulle without telling anyone, driver asking no questions. Lands at JFK with carry-on only and a heart heavy as lead with mingled regret and relief. The Élysée announces a mutual separation in a laconic statement read monotone by the spokesman. Sarkozy poses alone for the year-end official photo in the gilded salon with multiplying mirrors. He smiles but his hands tremble slightly on the hand-carved Louis XV chair back. All France comments like a national soap opera with endless TV debates hosted by psychoanalysis and politics experts. March 2008, Rockefeller Center in Manhattan with skyscrapers piercing the sky and spurting fountains. Cecilia marries Richard Attias in utmost intimacy with a 50-person guest list of closest friends and discreet family. No press allowed in the dark-suited security perimeter. Phones confiscated at entry by discreet metal detector service. Custom gold dress with square neckline and pleated bodice by a New York designer who took measurements in a midtown atelier. She laughs truly for the first time in years before close friends with a frank laugh lighting the room. New York becomes her absolute refuge with noisy streets and yellow cabs, her daily oxygen inhaled in green parks, her complete rebirth like a phoenix from political ashes. She launches her women's foundation with midtown open space offices and giant screens, visits Kenyan shelters under armed escort in bumpy jeeps on dusty tracks, helps Long Island ex-inmates find jobs with training workshops and revamped CVs, organizes Dubai conferences on women's empowerment in 5-star hotels with infinity pools. She no longer needs to be someone's wife, to exist with her own legitimacy and a voice carrying beyond borders. October 2025. Sarkozy convicted of corruption and influence peddling in the wiretap affair with recordings revealing compromising talks. House arrest with electronic bracelet in his Corsican home with blue shutters. Cecilia, from her Upper East Side apartment overlooking Central Park's swirling autumn leaves, posts on Instagram with a black and white photo from a past trip. "Tomorrow a man with whom I shared 25 years of life will be deprived of freedom. I am devastated by this news hitting like a sledgehammer." He served France with passion even if his methods were sometimes questionable and borderline. He deserves justice, not public humiliation turning a man into a caricature. The world pauses a second before this unexpected statement, breaking 18 years of media silence. She hasn't spoken publicly since 2007, and now she speaks for him with dignity, commanding respect from all political sides, not necessarily from residual love extinguished like a consumed candle, but from basic humanity transcending grudges, from memory of a shared son bearing their name growing with dual legacies, from respect for the man behind the political mask worn by years of power and controversy. Today she lives in New York in a luminous Upper East Side apartment with bay windows overlooking Manhattan rooftops and nighttime lights, surrounded by daughters Judith and Jean-Marie, who built lives between Paris and Manhattan in fashion and finance, by Louis, now Neuilly municipal councillor like his father before him with meetings in the same lily-scented town hall, by grandchildren running in Central Park shouting in French and English with mixed accents and joyful laughs. She advises in the shadows of international NGOs on women's rights with confidential reports and global strategies, influences without official title at discreet philanthropist dinners with round tables and vintage wines. She is finally just Cecilia, no label or suffix, not the ex-wife with suitcase memories, not the fallen first lady relegated to national archives, just herself in all her complexity with assumed strengths and flaws. The woman who said no to the gilded palace to say yes to authentic life far from gilding and protocols, who preferred freedom to fake glory that shines but doesn't warm, who survived turbulent history to finally write it her way with her own diamond-chiseled words in a book yet to come.